What's that? That would be nice. When you're doing a whole set, I would like you to use gloves just because it tends to take care of the strings a little bit better, so the oils from your fingers don't get on the string. Okay, so I have the piano wire all the way to the edge of the hole. When I start to pull it, it's going to pull in. I don't like to have the string going all the way through to the becket. I like to have it most of the way, but not all the way. And so the way I do that is I start with the string going through to the edge, but not through, and then when I start to put tension on it, it'll actually pull back in a little bit. Baldwin, for a lot of years, they actually went all the way through and then they bent it at the other end. I just don't like the way that looks. Okay, I'm going to go, yeah, it is. Make sure. Okay, I'm going to go 2 3/4. So there's, while keeping it tight, there's 1. Make sure I'm going under. There's 2 3/4. I'll keep it high. Yeah, let's check it.
Did you put a 6 in there?
Yeah. So that's tight. Can you get me a new, this one needs to be tightened, or the wrench. You know what the wrench looks like? Mm-hmm. Okay, just grab another. Yeah, that'd be great. It's not tight. I guess I can work on this in the meantime. So I'll put it around the hitch pin, come back. I'm going to measure it. My measurement is my 4 fingers. I've got my pinky above the center of the hole. Right, and then thank you. And then I'll hold both so that we don't go blind. Try not to scratch the plate. Okay, it's not jumping, so maybe that was the solution. Okay, it feels pretty good. It feels a little bit on the tight side. Our torque, we're about 160 pounds going up and about 160 pounds going down. So I'm actually okay with 160 pounds. It's a bit on the tight side. Oh, wrong one.
Do you want like 120
around that? Yeah, even one.
Between 100 and 120.
So that's like 140. Yeah, both directions. I'm good with 140. Okay, so I did my little measurement with my 4 fingers.
Definitely appears to be on the tighter end.
Yeah, but 140 is okay. That doesn't bother me. And there's no jumpiness. Okay, so here again, remember the string goes on this side because we're gonna go clockwise. So I'm gonna bring the string just to the end of the becket hole, hold it there while I get my tool, go around 2 3/4. 1, 2, 3/4.
Where do you start your beckets on the clock?
I don't know.
Just, I mean, you like to keep them lined up, right?
Yeah.
So, where do you like to start yours?
I don't really have a place that I start them. I just like to get them the same as much as possible.
So when you're tightening the strings, you kind of.
And if you're going 2 3/4 on both of those and you're measuring correctly, you end up, you know, more or less about the same spot. I don't really care if it ends up at 12 o'clock or 6 o'clock or wherever, as long as they're matched up. It just looks like a neat job. Like someone professional was here, someone who really knows what they're doing. Whereas you can, because like functionally, does it make a difference whether your beckets are all lined up like soldiers or whether they're all over the place? I don't think it does. I don't think it makes any difference whatsoever. It's just a point of pride, I think, to have all of your beckets like exactly at 5 o'clock, you know, or whatever it is. It just looks, you know, neat and professional.
If it looks good, it sounds good.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so my 2 3/4 ended up like perfect. If that's about how I like it, where it's, you know, in order to get it to the hole, it's got to be under tension. Okay, so I mean, if it were under no tension, it would be, you know, another what, 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch in, but that's perfect. So now I've got it under tension. Okay, now I'm at 130, 120 on my torque, so that's perfect. Then
Sorry, I couldn't find any other ones. Just that one.
I actually like, I kind of like these. I use them both. I'll use one on one and the other on the other. Okay. Now, I'm going to first, let's see, I'll catch this one up to the other. So this one is only 2 coils. This one has 3. This one's at 12 o'clock, that one's at 6 o'clock. So once this one gets to 12 o'clock, that'll have its third, so it'll be caught up. All right, so now they're both at 12 o'clock. And then I need needle nose pliers. So we want to be constantly, well, that's kind of staying just with my fingers. Want to be constantly checking to make sure that that we're not going, that we're getting it tight enough so that when we push in the becket, it'll stay, but not so tight that we can't get it in. Because if it's gone too far, that string will start to tighten up, and then you can no longer get the becket into the becket hole. And then, thank you. And then what can happen, especially on the smaller gauge wire, like up here, you know, where we're at 13 or even down to like 15, 16. What'll happen is if you've gone too far and you've gotten that string too tight, and you try and force that becket into the becket hole, it'll actually bend the string instead of pushing it into the becket hole. So you have to find that happy medium of tight enough that when you push it in, it'll stay. We're probably not quite there. Like it's staying mostly, but it's still coming out slightly, but not so tight that you risk bending the string. Okay, now I'm just going to kind of work with one side then the other. Pull this up. Remember, I'm going to pull it up too high because we're going to tap it down later so it covers half the hole, right? Because half of revolution means it's covering half the hole. So it's intentionally too high. Okay, so there let's see, a little more maybe. Turned it to about 8 o'clock. Catch this one up to 8 o'clock. Push the beckets in again. Then at some point you can kind of move those over. Ideally you want to use brass whenever moving the pin. I admit I use a steel screwdriver sometimes.
Why do you want to use brass?
Anybody know?
The softer nose.
Okay, I'll turn this one to maybe 10 o'clock. That looks good. And remember, this is not a pry bar. What happens if you use it as a pry bar? It's going to damage the plate. Yeah, this is for pulling. Just make sure that your face is in the way, because sometimes if you pull it, you can pull, you can get yourself if it slips off. This was from a garage door that, you know, those big springs at the bottom of the garage, or the top of the garage door. It was jammed. The garage door was jammed when I got the final bolt out, because the only way I could see to get it unjammed was to remove that bracket, remove the bracket, and then the spring, like all of that tension was suddenly released and my face was in the way. It was awesome.
So what happens when we find the correct?
Oh, okay, here's a trick. Right now I have both of them, well, more or less at about 10:30, something like that, as I look at it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out which one is tighter, and that's the one that I'm going to advance. It's kind of counterintuitive. You think that you would advance the looser one, right, to catch it up, but what you're actually doing is, well, I'll do it and talk you through it. So just, there's that one, obviously very loose. So it's the one on the left, as I'm looking at it. That's the looser one. That one's the tighter one. So I'm going to advance that one a little bit further. Maybe I'll go to 11 or 11:30. Okay, yeah, that looks good. So I'm at about 11 or 11:30 on this one. Check my becket again. That's something that I do when I restring, is I'm constantly checking my beckets, because that's like a one other thing is I like to use these better, because you have the compound action, and it's less risk of pinching you. Whereas these, if it slips off, if you're holding it like that and it slips off, then it pinches you bad. That's really painful. The disadvantage of this is it's not quite as narrow as the needle nose, but the advantage is you have better grip on these, where you've got the teeth on it. You have the compound action, so it's an even stronger grip than just the regular needle nose. And also, if it slips off, it's not going to pinch you, because you have it adjusted more or less where the tuning pin, the thickness of the tuning pin is. All right, so remember, picking up where we left off, getting the note, or the becket in the same place. So I have this one was tighter, so I advanced that one. And what is actually happening is when it's loose enough, it's not providing enough resistance that it's preventing it from actually pulling around the hitch pin like a pulley. And so as you're advancing it, you're kind of giving it a little bit of a head start and pulling a little bit from the other side. And so now this one is at 11 or 11:30, and this one's at about 10, which is where we're probably about where we want it, since we have that one, which actually sounds pretty musical. I don't know if that's the right pitch or not, probably not, but it's, you know, at least musical. So that's where I'm going to leave it, is as soon as it's musical, we're good. Okay.
So should we have pulled to the wrong side? What's the risk? The slack end.
If you pull the slack end, There isn't a risk as far as, well, I mean, there's always a risk of breaking strings or whatever,
Be on
but
either side.
but the advantage of doing it this way is, let's say they're both, you know, at that, what is that, you know, 10 o'clock or something, okay? So if I pull, let's say this one's the tight one, so I pull that one to 11. Now this one's actually slightly tighter because we've actually pulled some from around the hitch pin, okay? But this one is musical now, and so we're going to leave it. And so, you know, this amount of space is about right for bringing that up to pitch or up to the other pitch. Whereas if, okay, reset, again, this one's the tight one, this one's the loose one, okay? Then we pull this one up to, actually it has to go a little bit further because it was loose. So it's going to go up to 12 o'clock. Okay, now we have 10 o'clock. This one was already tight. And in order to get it to match this pitch, it's only going to go this far.
Okay.
Because it was already tight to begin with. And so now to catch up pitch-wise to this one, it's only going to have to move a little bit. And so now you have a 12 o'clock and you've got a 10:30. The other reason that I like to bring it up to a musical point is so that you can kind of adjust down here as you go and sort of up here by capo bar. Okay, so there's the one that we left at about 11:30. Okay. Okay, they're not exact, but they're pretty close. And that one. Okay, they're pretty close. This one's like 11:30. This one's probably about 11. So, got it. That's close enough for me. All right, now I'm gonna try and clean that up a little bit. So we want straight lines at the hitch pin. Why do we want straight lines there?
If they're out, there's wiggle room.
Yeah.
And whenever they come in, it's going to fall flat.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Yeah, we're not gonna worry about making bends right now. Bends here, 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 right? Because we want it to be actually slightly sharp. We want it to be about 15 cents sharp before we make those bends. So we're not going to do that. We're just going to kind of make sure that it's in place, make sure that we have a straight line there, make sure that it's basically a straight line from the speaking bridge pin up to under here. I guess this is the capo bar. I forget what this is called. I guess it's the speaking length, the beginning of the speaking length. It's kind of like serves the same purpose as an A graph, I guess. Okay, so now, I mean, it looks good. We've got 3 coils. I'll tighten that. Okay, that's covering half the hole there. You might have to sharpen this every once in a while because this gets chewed up pretty badly because it's brass, right? So that would probably be to the point because it's where it starts falling off the coil like it is now. That would be the point where you want to sharpen a little bit.
You just take off the edges with the grinder.
Yeah. Or sander. I've heard that you don't want to do brass on a grinding wheel because it gets in the... I've never had it happen, but I've heard that that if you get brass in the grinding wheel, that the brass can get into the little pores of the rock, of the stone, and that it can like expand and cause the grinding wheel to shatter, which is really bad, especially when it's under, you know, it's going 3,600 RPM. So let's hopefully,
Oh, it's bad for the brass or something, not for the wheel.
yeah. That's what I've heard.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe brass we better do on the sanding, on the big floor sanding
You
thing.
don't want to experiment with that.
No, I don't want you guys to get hurt. Okay, I think we're pretty good. We've got tight coils. So again, the who can name some of the hallmarks of a good stringing job?
Tight coil.
Tight coils. Okay. What else?
Lined up.
Yep, lined up.
Like strings lined up.
Strings lined up. And then what'd you say?
Just with the coils like kind of high.
Yeah, I started with the coils high, but then I tapped it down to
Half.
covering half the hole on the opposite side.
So half the hole as well.
Yep, half the hole. Good. Height, I actually like to do the height after. So I'm intentionally leaving it high now. The reason I like to do the height after is because that's something that's easy to drift. If you try and get your height right, you can easily start to, you know, here it's good, but then down here you're a little bit lower. So if you leave it all kind of high, and then you can also do the thing that I was talking about the other day with the back checks, where you can kind of peer over, and then you can find, oh, that's the high one, tap that one down, and when you look at them all kind of as one set, then you can just fix the high ones. And then when you fix those high ones, then you can fix a few more high ones, and then pretty soon it's pretty good.
So will they all need to come down? So you do them by halves,
Oh,
or do you just do the high ones factory?
probably just the high ones, yeah. And if you have to go too crazy, then that's going to mess up your torque. Okay, are we missing anything else on some of the hallmarks of a good stringing job? There was one that wasn't said.
No dings on the plate.
Yeah, no dings on the plate. That's a good one. That's a very good one. Tight becket, right? We can't have the becket sticking out of the hole. We can't have any space in between the bend and the tuning pin, the face of the tuning pin. We need to have it really tight on that tuning pin, or else, like Jared was saying, if there's any chance that string can move, it will, and that'll cause tuning instability. Feels pretty smooth. Also feels smooth. So what I'm doing right now is I'm actually not feeling for smoothness. I'm actually feeling for, I'm actually trying to decrease the torque a little bit, right? Okay, 140. I'm going to leave that. And 140. We'll leave that. That one just doesn't want to stay in there, so I'm just going to advance it a little bit, and then hopefully it'll stay in. Yeah, that'll stay. Sometimes with these smaller gauge, like 13, rather than just putting the tool on the back of the becket and just trying to force it in, it's better to actually grab the becket. You know, so what I'm saying is rather than hitting the back of the becket and forcing it in using the opposite side of the tuning pin, I'll actually grab the becket and push it in like that. And then once it's in, then I'll do pushing it in from the opposite side. Okay, again, because you risk bending it rather than actually getting it in. So I'll use these for now, and then when I need the compound, I'll use those. About 6 o'clock on each of those, and now we're getting to the point almost where it's kind of straightening.
So you can use the hook too for the coil.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you can put it right here, and that might actually be better.
The hook is better for tighter spots.
Yeah. And that might, yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. For this particular application, that might be better. These are nice when you're tuning it, or when you're stringing it this way, because you have that side constantly open, but it just doesn't necessarily fit in there quite as easily. Now I'll use the compound. McKinley, I think you'll have to use some sort of a marker of which one you're on, which one you've done, as you change these out. Otherwise, it'll be easy to forget. Okay, so now I have these both at. Unfortunately, we're not going to make it to the same 11:30 like we did on these. We're probably going to end up at 9 or so, but whatever. At least the two will be the same. Okay.
Different fingers were measured.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I've got mine. He's got his. These are McKinley's fingers. All right. So here's the middle string. Here's the right string. Okay. So which one am I going to advance? Yeah, I'm going to advance that one.
I have a question with that. Like,
Okay.
Because some strings are switched between two notes, like different pitches. So do we still go by that method, or does it affect it?
Oh, yeah, and that's why I said I just want it to be musical, because we're not worrying about the precise pitch. Yeah, all of these notes are different pitches, but like I'm not gonna leave it there, because that's not musical. That sounds like those African thumb things, doesn't it? What are they called?
I don't even know that.
In the pentatonic scale. Okay, so I'm going to advance this one. Because that was the tight one. Yeah, that's closer to musical. I can go maybe a little further. Okay, that's probably still still a bit low, but it's at least musical, so we can just leave it. Okay, and here's the one in the middle. That's not musical, and it's obviously not up to that pitch. So I ended about almost 9 o'clock on that. So now I have, and this one's at 8 o'clock, so I'm hoping that from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock we'll bring the pitch from here to here. That's the goal. Okay. So there we are. Yeah, about the same, about 8:30, 8:45 on both of those. We've got half the hole. I think we're good. Bass strings, you want to give it a twist in the direction of the winding. It's like one twist is probably enough when you put them on. Yep. Yep. So I use this and then go one complete revolution around, make sure it's in the direction of the winding. Can't remember which direction that is. I look at it every time.
The direction to make it tighter.
To make it tighter, yeah. So start here, one full revolution, you end up here, put it on your hitch pin. And that tightens up the coil like an Indian rug burn on your, right? On your forearm. Other than that, bass strings usually go pretty easy. I tend to it's harder wire because you're up at like 48 thousandths versus this wire that we're using here is like 30 thousandths. I don't know. You end up adjusting slightly for your measurement. Like you can be 4 fingers wide or 4 fingers tight. If you end up having too many coils as your gauge changes. So that you end up, at the 12 o'clock or the 9 o'clock or whatever.
Sometimes there will be a single string you have to tie like at the top of there, right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, and you want that nice and tight. There again is potential for.
I've seen some pianos where they have that tied, like for each note.
Uh-huh.
You have to write them down. Which strings are tight.
Can everyone see the noose kind of tightening? Well, listen to that pitch. That changed quite a bit, just those little taps, which means there's still some energy in that little noose. All right, everybody ready to restring piano?
We're ready.
Okay, awesome.